session to order. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, are we rolling?
Yes.
Okay. So we were originally going to start out with a Juvenile Court 101, but given the makeup of the people sitting in this room, I'm not sure that that's necessary. So we are just going to dive actually right in. Sandy has got a sign-in sheet. So if you're a member of the public and would like to share your thoughts on juvenile court, the possibility of moving it to the circuit court, please sign in. But before we get into the general public comments, I wanted to ask, we've got circuit court with us today, Judge Wolf. And so I wondered if you guys, we might need an extra chair actually, would be willing to come up. And I know the commissioners might have some questions about things like scheduling, stuff like that, just how it's gone so far, maybe from your perspective on the transfer of cases, in terms of just how that's worked with putting that into your regular schedule. Is that something you guys would do?
I can certainly give it a shot.
Okay. Andy, do you want to come too? Sure. And then if you guys don't mind just reiterating who you are on the record, because we are recording right behind you, and that way it'll be on our website for those who tune in after.
For blackout purposes. I'm John Wolf, one of the circuit judges in the district. There are 4 of us that cover Hood River, Wasco, Sherman, Gilliam, and Wheeler counties. So any day in court, you can see any one of the 4 of us. It'd be either Judge Stopper, Janet Stopper, primarily in Wasco, but does come out to what we call our 3 eastern counties, Sherman, Gilliam, and Wheeler. Judge Olson, who's primarily in Hood River, and Judge Austria, who's also primarily in Hood River. So far, I think I have the vast majority of the Gilliam County cases that we have transferred up, and Angie was kind enough to print out the statistics. It looks like we have about 9 that have been transferred since we made the switch after the first of the year. As far as scheduling, we have tried so far, I think, a majority of them to keep the dates that were set in county court, just because, as many of you probably know, there's a wide variety of parties and attorneys, and changing schedules at the last minute can be difficult. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to be in person for all of those hearings, but have been able to use our video systems, so been able to see people, they've been able to see us, and interactive. Most of those hearings have what we call a review hearing, where we're just getting an update on progress of either parents or child or both, where they're at with services, whether or not they're participating in those services, how successful they might be towards getting reunited with their children. And then on the delinquency side, how the kiddo's probation might be going, whether they're off in some facility or they're still local and going through that process. And I think that seems to be working fairly well so far. I know for the cases that I have, I think all of the next review hearings are all scheduled, and I intend to be out in person in courtroom, which from my perspective is a little better, just being able to see everybody face to face.
Okay. Did you guys have questions? I know when it came up before, there was some questions about scheduling, things like that.
I'm really looking at my notes.
Yeah.
I asked most of the questions that I had when we met the last time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I got a lot of them answered at that point in time. I'll think of some more as we go probably, but right off the bat, I think most of my questions were answered before.
And in terms of, I think we had talked last time about like the emergency hearings and things like that. Those have all been scheduled, within the statutory time frame. So we haven't had any issues in terms of judges, which we really appreciate.
Yeah.
Your judges making yourselves available.
Following any real disaster, getting particularly the immediate hearings scheduled within the time frame is going to be a priority for us as well. There's statutory obligations that we have, and it may mean that we end up bumping some lower level case, and we don't mean to denigrate those other cases, but there are statutory outlines of which cases have priority. So it may be that somebody has a civil case that's scheduled, and if we have a shelter care hearing that we need to hear out here, that's going to get priority. And unfortunately the other folks are going to have to reschedule, which would be the same whether it's a case in River or Wasco, any of our other counties that we cover. So we're going to do our best to get that covered as quickly as we can, certainly in those required timeframes. At our most recent judges meeting, I don't think I'm telling you tales out of school, we discussed, having judges physically present for hearings, and that was certainly the overriding priority of myself and the other judges, is to be in the courtrooms with folks when we can. Full disclosure, sometimes on those hearings that get set quickly, it might be difficult for us to do that, and they may occur initially by video. But our priority, if we can pull it off, is to be here in person.
Have you had any delinquency cases yet?
I had a review on one today, or yesterday, sorry. And I think Judge Equestri has one of those delinquency cases for some reason. I don't know if she's had a review on that one or not.
And I'm Angie Jensen, I'm the trial court administrator, and what I would also add is the other thing we discussed in this in our practice is when a judge hears the shelter hearing, we really try to keep that case with that same judge throughout the life of the case so that, the families are familiar with the judge and the judge is familiar with the details of the case. So that's another thing we practice across the district is we really try to keep one family, one judge so that they can stay current.
And is that the case too, when you have, say, a delinquency case that maybe one of the children, say there's a delinquency case and there's also a dependency case that's going there, do those typically you try to track those with the same judge if you can?
We would try to keep those together for a variety of reasons. If you can have intermixed services, if your facts obviously are going to overlap at least to some degree, it's a lot better if you've got one person who can provide her with that case from beginning to end. Historically, we have had some of the juvenile cases moved up to circuit court when there's been, say, a family law case, a divorce case, or a custody case that's been filed. And so we have kind of been in the practice of doing that routinely. And again, that's the purpose of getting that family all in front of one judge.
I said it at the last meeting too, and it's just we've entered into arrangements with other counties before and other entities, and it starts off pretty good, and then as time goes by, the responsiveness is not as good as maybe it started out with. And that's just something that I'm always concerned with, and I've heard other people have made that comment too. And I'm hoping that as time went on, if we did decide to make this change, that you see, I guess that's kind of a hard question to answer. That's like looking at a crystal ball, but
Well, and one thing too to keep in mind, again, that a lot of those cases will be coming in and there's statutory requirements. So what Judge was saying is that those will always take precedence. So when we have an emergency hearing, state law says that these steps need to happen within a certain time frame. And so it doesn't matter who the parties are, that's the expectation.
It is, and I don't think the other judges would disagree with me. We serve all 5 counties. It's one judicial district. A juvenile case in Gilliam County has the same priority as a juvenile case in River County or Wasco County. Criminal cases within custody defendants have the same priority regardless of which county they're in. I know Judge Olson's working on an eviction case in Wheeler County. It's got the same priority as an eviction case in any of our other counties. And so we're gonna schedule those the same, which hopefully means that we're meeting your expectations.
well, that's good to hear, because then I can tell, our citizens that that's the way it is.
Yeah, those citizens are our voters too, so they're certainly entitled to as much responsiveness as any other citizen, resident of our county.
Caseload-wise, between you and the other 3 circuit court judges, do you see, is that going to be a problem?
I don't think so. I have statistics on how many juvenile cases you've got overall, but looking at the number that I have since we did the transfer, I think we're at 9. I believe those are all the active cases at this point.
My calculation was 10, but
Okay, there-
I actually miscalculated as well, but we're around 9 or 10, and that's all of our cases.
which we probably cover in a week in Bosco and the river. So it's not going to be overly burdensome to add that to the caseload.
Another issue that's been brought up quite a bit from people around, at least in Arlington, is the local control. You know, is giving up that local control. But the way it was explained to us when we met with Amy last time was that she is still very involved in it and keeping track of the kids and what's going on.
I haven't seen significant change in Amy's role in terms of working with us in circuit court versus county court.
And that's why I explained that you still, like for delinquency cases, I still give you the court report with my recommendations for meeting with the family and the youth. DHS, that's where our local control would be per se. They still give you their recommendations, they still meet the families. We're all involved in court, and I think so that piece, as far as what the judge is seeing, is still from the local,
It is.
the
and
local level.
DHS and the juvenile department continue to be parties in the cases, so that they'll have that input. The only party that's really changing that's involved in the case is the judge, and while you are trading a resident judge for more than likely somebody out of Hood River or Bosco County. We are elected out of Gilliam County as well, and like I say, I certainly believe that wherever the case is, it's on equal priority for the case from any of our other counties. And needs to be.
CASA would be the other stakeholder that has.
Oh, yes, over it, you're correct.
The other thing I would add to answer your question of kind of making it priorities, we, with the Oregon Judicial Department, also have time standards that are tracked statewide, and we get quarterly reports about our progress. So not only is it sort of our commitment and statutory requirements, but we also get reports that tell us whether we're meeting the statutory guidelines. So there's that level of accountability as well to make sure, from a state perspective, they're monitoring whether we're staying on top of cases and that kind of thing. So there's another level of kind of objective tracking that would be available to share how we're doing on those timelines.
I heard at the last meeting that, I asked the question about how many, and I kind of had thought I heard this before anyway, how many counties still have this type of arrangement, and I heard it was just 3. It was Gilliam, Sherman, and Wheeler.
Correct, because Morrow County transferred jurisdiction to circuit court about 2-3 years ago. And so I think at this point, the 3 counties in our district are the last 3 that have maintained county jurisdiction.
Sherry, anything?
Just learning as we go. trying to absorb it all.
And one of the things that we talked about too was that, we have our justice of the peace within our county. And, I think a lot of people, when we first started, this idea first started getting kicked around was, well, why can't we have our justice of the peace do it? In fact, somebody just asked me that today, again. It sounds like that's traffic, and this is,
Yeah,
Just out of that.
jurisdiction, it's either county court or circuit court under current state law.
I was hoping we can give you a bunch more.
Wasn't she like ecstatic about it?
She's here to defend herself.
Yeah, it's, the statute has jurisdiction for all juvenile and county court in those 5 counties that we've mentioned before. Now, it's down to 3 from what I understand, and then every other county it's circuit court, and if you make the decision, then it's circuit court here as well. But unfortunately, I guess depending on which side of that you're on, justice court's not an option. Unless you're not in the legislature.
It's not gonna be a heavy lift, though, for our one little county. Anything else? Yeah, I just want to thank you guys both for taking the time to come and I've also, again, throw out that I sat in the back of the courtroom and watched the circuit court judges, and they are fantastic. So I just want to throw that out there, that we appreciate you taking on our caseload and
feel free to call her up and see if I can answer her. But I just, I don't.
You know, someone else, and
You thought you were off the hook.
I asked this last time too, but I just want to clarify. If Gilliam County decided they wanted to give up one versus the other, like dependency, but keep delinquency, that's an option too.
I believe so. I think when Morrow County did their transition, they did it incrementally, so their process was, they handled that way.
And that may be an option. I guess I would encourage you to communicate with your county council. I'd be one of the ones that I don't think I'm in a position to answer today.
I feel like there's one more. And this is also something too that we could continue to do for an extended period of time, the way we're currently handling it, turning one case over at a time. There's not going to be a deadline, like you can only do that for 8 months, then you can extend it on.
You know, give it to us, you know, I'm not aware of any that I'm going to be.
And then I also heard too that once you do decide to give it away, it doesn't come back.
We checked with council on that, and that is the reading of the statute.
I don't know that I can answer that question for you, but I would encourage you to communicate and listen to your council.
Yeah, but that was Ruben's read on the statute.
Trying to become spot.
It's not the first time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. So do we have a list?
I never have to answer this website.
Okay. Does anybody want to come up and share your thoughts? Short meeting, if not.
I'm not an advocate, everybody knows who I am. You had the work session last time, and I applaud you for the ad hoc revision of the agenda and not going through the 101 again. These sessions have also been informational about the juvenile court process. And as I said at the work session, I'm neutral on this. It doesn't impact me so much. We talked about the dependency track of the juvenile court and then the delinquency. And I mentioned that as district attorney, I was distanced a while back, about a year ago, from the dependency track. The assistant attorney general presents those cases now. I have the right to intervene if I wanted to, or had strong feelings about a case. But the role of your juvenile director hasn't changed. She still helps prepare those petitions and helps coordinate the agenda and the reports. And but they're driven generally by DHS and the Attorney General. So my role there has been diminished already. My more active role is with delinquency cases. But again, as I mentioned at the work session, 95% of the work is done by the juvenile director. On a delinquency case, we consult and we agree on any charging documents or any charging decisions. But from there, she prepares the petitions, she's the probation officer, she prepares the reports for the court, and it's a lot different than the adult court in that respect. So I was very well deferring to her on how she felt about any change there. So I already, during the course of the year, I appeared before 6 judges right now, 4 circuit court judges and the justice court judge, and I have been in the past the county court judge in juvenile matters, and if there's a change, it'll just be 5 judges, and so I've never been so stupid as to suggest a preference among judges.
Given that one of the others is in the room, that's probably smart. percentage, do you know, Amy, kind of off the top of your head, of like,
The formal accountability agreements have been more of a newer approach, and I have done 3 in the last, I think all but one delinquency case we did with formal accountability. We have one that we filed a petition on and went to court because there was some pretty serious charges. And so far, knock on wood, I haven't had to revoke the formal accountability and file a petition to take the youth to court. They have been following pretty well, just with the one-on-one meeting with me and the conditions I put down in formal accountability, so.
I know you got a former county judge here and former juvenile judge, and I know among your predecessors that was a very meaningful job for them. But in terms of outcome for the kids, I don't really have any strong feelings or preferences in that area.
anybody else that wants to share thoughts, perspectives? Y'all are just coming to listen and, because see, we named it listening and we meant that we would be listening. Not that you were supposed to be listening. It's entirely up to you, whatever you feel more comfortable.
Then you can sign the sheet.
You can just sign in and I can sign it, yeah. And then just for the record, so that folks watching at home know who's talking.
I'm on the CASA board for Gilliam County and Weaver County, and I have recently taken the training to be a CASA, so well worth it. My concern would be to lose local control over our local kids, and I just reiterate that because so many of the times, and I'm older, I've seen us send out things to like DHS. We don't get the services. There's not one foster home in Gilliam County. We don't get, once it gets spread out, I'm not agreeing that we get the kind of service that we usually get if we can contain it locally. And I don't want to, I have talked to Steve, but I have talked to Judge Pryor and Pat Shaw, and their concerns were the same, that we don't want to lose local control of our kids. And it's one of the few things as small counties we can do better than anybody. Not that circuit court would totally would get been around a long time, but I worked for DHS for quite a while too, and I know when we start spreading ourselves so thin out, we don't get the direct supervision that we would like to have for our children. And that's the only comment. Whichever way you guys decide, we are on the ground and we will be working with these kids. You know that. You have a great group of people that are on the ground all the time, and all the people in MDT and the teachers, the coaches that are on the ground. And we just, Gilliam County kids are special, and I hate to lose that control. That spreading ourselves so thin and being part of 5 counties instead of 3. I've just felt like through the years it's worked well for us. And my sister was a juvenile director she retired from there, so I'm sure it was like 25 years. And she feels strongly that if we lose our local control, we'll never get it back. And there may be a new judge, there may be new people, a new direction from circuit court, but you don't ever get that judge, that position back. When we give things away, we don't get them back. We know that to be true. So that's all I have to say, and I'll sign my name. And we're here for service to the kids. Kids first.
Thanks for volunteering.
Yes.
I'm in Gilliam County, by the way.
I know.
State your name for the record too, camera and everything.
Why can't
It's the iron.
John Bradley.
What do you think we need to do to encourage more people to participate in CASA?
And
In
foster
Gilliam
homes.
County.
And foster homes. I guess that would be one of the things that you have, Candy's great. You've got Candy, and she's awesome, and she just trained a bunch of us, and it was a really extensive training that was 5 hours, 2 nights a week, and I was broken, and my husband had to take me and pick me up, so it was, but I finished. But I guess I hope whatever the court decides today about circuit court, that I hope it will be more influential about getting DHS to take care of our 2 counties and make sure that we have foster homes. The idea that we're not only ripping these kids from their homes, and it happens, we're taking them away from their coaches, their school, their grocery store where they attend, and all their friends. And that's just breaks my heart that we aren't doing a better job there. There's more, when I worked for DHS, there was 2 people, myself and a caseworker. Now there's a lot of people working there. So we just need to maybe be a little more proactive and make sure that they are encouraging foster parents. And it's a tough job, and I'm not volunteering for that. I volunteered for Candy. But it's a hard job, but it's our kids. So I would ask the court to be real proactive with that. The expectation is high. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Anybody else? Maybe John warmed up the room. Anybody else who wants to jump in? No? What do you guys think? Have any questions for Amy since she's here, or?
No, I grilled her last time.
Did, we appreciate her. She does a great job.
Thank you.
Nothing but praise.
All right, well, if nobody,
This
last
way.
calls, anybody else? We will be having a work session, or another listening session in Condon. That one is on May the 1st at 5 o'clock. So if you're sitting in the audience and you change your mind and want to give us an earful, then please come to that one, or obviously anytime you want to weigh in with us. If you are shy and don't want to do it in public and like to do it in private, please feel free to do that as well.
Yes.
So, all right.
Yes, I was hoping that we were going to get some.
Elizabeth, I wouldn't mind asking a question.
Sure.
So dealing with the kids is a specialty job, in my opinion. And so what sort of training do you have, and Steve might be able to answer this too, as a former judge, but what sort of training do you, as the judge, have to go through in order to be able to do juvenile issues, to deal with juvenile issues?
My understanding, and Steve can probably speak to it better, because we haven't gone down the path yet of registering for it, but there is a judge's training, I believe it's 2 weeks, is that right, Steve?
Yes.
In Las Vegas. And
Las
that-
Vegas?
Yeah.
No, it's in Reno.
Or
Reno,
Reno.
Judicial, sorry.
Yeah.
And so that's it.
So how much time, and I'm sorry I got here late, so how much time does it take from your position as a county judge to deal with juvenile issues? And deal with them in a manner that is appropriate and doing a full, good job?
Well, I would say, now, let me just preface this by saying that the way we've been handling these now is when there's a new case that comes in, Amy's just basically preparing a court order that I sign to send to circuit court. So currently, I'm not hearing any of those as they're being transferred over to circuit court, and so that's as long as it takes me to read the court order,
Right,
basically.
right.
But I think some things to consider for the public. One, obviously, I do not have a law degree, and I don't, if any of you have sat in dependency cases, there are often 4 or 5 attorneys sitting in there that you, I mean, basically I would be the only non-attorney in the room for the most part that's arguing the case. My take on that is being able to navigate that in a way that's appropriate would take considerable amount of training to do that. The other thing to consider as well, because sort of the feedback that I've been getting is, well, it's not that many cases, so, you
So
know.
what? You have to treat each one like it's,
Well, and the challenge is, as you know, for anybody that knows this, is sometimes things that you only do occasionally are actually harder to do well over time
absolutely.
than things that you're doing consistently. So if you're doing something day to day, it becomes more of a routine. But with us, I mean, we have 2 delinquency cases right now. The dependency cases have kind of shot up recently, but when I took office, there were 3 of them. And that's not a lot of opportunity to learn, I would say. So that's the other consideration. Is not only, I think, the learning curve will be steep, but it will continue to be steep because it doesn't become routine in this particular position.
And in my opinion, the types of cases that are coming up against kids are growing. I mean, they're bigger and different problems that maybe don't have the capacity to deal with. And in our local county, I mean, I can't imagine being put in that position, frankly.
Yeah.
And to deal with kids that, you know, parents that you grew up with, and you're dealing with a child, you have to be completely just, you can't, yeah, absolutely neutral. And that's a tough job.
And that's
In a small county, that's the problem with a small county. It's got its pluses and it's got its minuses. Its minuses are, we know everybody and we've known them for 40 years.
Yeah, the neutrality is a problem. The way that our oversight of Amy is a problem right now, because technically I'm her supervisor, which creates a problem. So those kinds of things,
Right.
you know, we've always done it in a certain way. The other thing I think is just always important, because it was sort of new to me, and I think for the public, 'cause I remember my only sort of experience with delinquency with kids that I grew up with who got MIPs or whatever, and you know, they would go before the judge. But it seems to have changed more recently, where if they're coming before a judge, it's either they're on a path that is, you know, this is a second or third, or you know, they're really sort of, or it's a serious enough offense. So it's not the MIPs of old.
Right.
It's
way
not
bigger. It feels bigger to me.
Yeah.
It's not something that the parents can just slap their hands and, because, I mean, in all honesty, a lot of parents don't slap their children's hands, and that's a problem too. And are leaving it up to somebody else to do. And
yeah. And the other thing too, I mean, people in the room know this, but I think a lot of folks in the community may not realize the dependency side comes through the county court as well. That may be something that, I mean, all of you know that in this room, but in the general public, what I find frequently is when I say, oh yeah, when DHS removes a child from the home, that comes through this court. Most people do not realize that is something that would be my responsibility. And I don't know, I mean, if you all have sat in those cases, it's more complicated than what you would assume.
And one more time, it takes a lot of capacity and learning and time from you to do that versus helping our county grow and be successful. And
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they go hand in hand, obviously, because it's our children of our county. However, we still need to drive our county to be successful. And have another route, circuit court, that can help with the children's side.
That's definitely the case. Did that spur something for anybody else that wants to, I'm really wanting to kind of draw you guys out. So, anybody else that has?
I think I spoke everything I had to say last time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you giving me a chance to say it.
Judge Schaefer? Do you think you want to add? Just came to listen?
Not today.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then I guess we will adjourn the listening session. And like I said, we will be back for a second listening session on May 1st at 5 o'clock in Condon. That one's at the courthouse. that's it.